US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has landed in Israel to discuss the next phase of Tel Aviv's military operation in Gaza. And he's the latest in a string of Washington officials to visit the region amid an intensifying rift between US President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over the mounting civilian death toll in the besieged enclave. Now, three of Israel's closest allies, the United Kingdom, Germany and France, have joined global calls for a lasting truce. Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen says he's rejected pressure to change tactics and said that a ceasefire would be, quote, a gift for Hamas. The UN Security Council is set to vote later today on a new resolution calling for a halt to the fighting in Gaza. It comes just days after the US blocked a previous resolution pushing for a humanitarian ceasefire. Now, the new draft, drawn up by the United Arab Emirates, is said to call for the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages and affirms support for a two-state solution in the region. Meantime, there's been no let-up in Israeli strikes across the Gaza Strip over the weekend. The enclave's health ministry says that more than 100 people have been killed in the Jabalia refugee camp in the north. That's just yesterday. They were buried in a mass grave in the compound of Kamal Adwan Hospital that sustained extensive damage after Israel's multi-day raid. There have also been reports of attacks in hospitals across the territory, including Al-Shifa Hospital in the north and Nasser Hospital in the southern city of Khan Yunis, leaving dozens killed.
الساعة 10:30 مساء سمعنا صوت انفجار هز المبنى بينما كنا نمر على حالات الأطفال الموجودين في المطابق. فوجئنا بالقذيفة تخترق سطح المبنى من فوق وتخترق الغرفة وأدت طبعا إلى كارثة في الغرفة، استشهاد أحد السيدات في الغرفة وإصابات بليغة.
Nearly 19,000 Palestinian civilians have reportedly been killed so far as the war enters its 11th week. Gaza's health ministry says that women and children make up 70% of the death toll. Civilians are also struggling to find food and clean water. Human Rights Watch has accused Israel of war crimes, alleging that the country is intentionally starving Gazans by deliberately blocking the delivery of water, food and fuel over the past 2 months. For more, Trent Murray joins us. He's live for us from Tel Aviv. Trent, what is the US Defense Chief hoping to accomplish during his visit?
Well, Dawn, touching down in Tel Aviv, Secretary Lloyd Austin said he was here to reinforce America's ironclad commitment to Israel, to get an update on the IDF operations within Gaza to dismantle Hamas. But he also said he was here to talk about ways to try and mitigate civilian deaths and also to make sure there's more aid getting into the Strip. And I think it's those last 2 points that could prove most contentious between Washington and officials here in Israel. We know Washington is growing increasingly concerned about the pace and the style of this military operation taking place in Gaza. They say, the Pentagon that is, that they're looking for some more metrics or milestones, effectively some clues from the Israelis around what comes next. How long will they sustain this high impact, heavy combat clearance operation style of warfare, and when will they move to the next phase of the war in which it's more focused on high-value individuals from Hamas and civilians can be spared. But of course, we know the rhetoric coming out of the government of Benjamin Netanyahu is that they are focused on dismantling Hamas so it doesn't pose a threat again to Israel, and they are showing no signs of letting up from this heavy bombardment. So look, I imagine it will be quite tense negotiations at times, and we'll get some clues as to exactly what was said in the next couple of hours when Lloyd Austin is scheduled to front the press to answer questions.
Plenty of outstanding concerns remain, Trent, but meantime, the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, he's facing increased criticism over his handling of the hostage situation so far, especially after the IDF's accidental killing of those 3 Israeli captives that were held by Hamas. What's been the reaction?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's still approximately 130 hostages in the Gaza Strip. Many of them are Israelis, and for families here, they are growing increasingly desperate. The killing of those 3 Israeli hostages at the hands of the IDF really, I think, shone a spotlight once again on their plight and how worried they all are. I think one of the things to note is that Israel is not necessarily a big country, both geographically, but also population. We're talking about 10 million. And so it really feels like everyone knows someone that's connected to this situation. And that is making the political situation quite desperate and hard on the government of Benjamin Netanyahu, understandably. I mean, I think what we should look at is some families are saying that they don't think a military option is the way to go here, that they are calling for more negotiations with Hamas. But others do say that trying to weaken Hamas is maybe the best way to get their loved ones home. All of that, Dawn, forming part of discussions we understand are taking place today between the Israelis and Hamas via an intermediary being Qatar. There's some hopes maybe a new ceasefire could be resurrected like the one we saw last month to allow more aid into Gaza and some more of those hostages to come home.
Trent, thank you. Trent Murray there in Tel Aviv.